So can you hear me now?
Yes, ma.
Okay. Okay, so like what we have done so far, so that it won't be won't just be like I'll not be like a radio that doesn't get responses. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to so Gashi, you can write your whatever you need to do. You can write in the chat box. Your hand, you have your hand raised. Badi Gashi, and use the chat box, please. And please, let's have your hands down. Thank you. Okay, so I want you to talk to me. You know, there's a question that I have in mind regarding our last topic. So, exemption. Okay. When we're talking about consideration, can any of you remember the rule or the principle in Pinel's case? The principle in Pinel's case. I'm expecting a response from everybody. And if you cannot remember, just tell me you can't, so I can go on. I told you today is meant to be a very fast day, so we've been on contract for a very long time. If you cannot remember, just write in there, I can't. Okay? What is the rule in Pinel's case? When we're talking about consideration. Can you hear me? Okay, yeah. Waiver of a contractual right, yes. But then what is the principle there? What did the principle say? I know it's under waiver of contractual, but what is the position of the principle? I want you to say it clearly. Because of course, you may have seen it there. So that's why I just wrote the topic. Okay, so Olufemi says waiver is not binding. Beautiful. Okay, so David said the rule of promissory estoppel. So Bidemi says Pinel's case says after waiver, you can go back on your words. So I would have loved. So for I think Olufemi also said something like that. So yes, that is Pinel's case. And wherever you have gotten it from now, if you have to just go out, you have to go through your notes, or you have to go through the slides that I've shared before you can get this. I hope you know that you are not helping at all. So
Yes, ma'am.
you need to be reading beforehand. And David said the rule of promissory estoppel. So David, the rule of promissory estoppel follows the rule in Pinel's case. Remember Pinel's case, like Bidemi had said, that Pinel's case says after you have waived, you cannot go back. After you have waived, you can still go back and say, I want to take the remaining balance back. But Pinel's promissory estoppel says when you have waived, you cannot go back again. When you have waived, you cannot go back again. So, and we're able to say a few things about consideration. I think we also did intention last week, the intentions to create legal relations. And we mentioned for a contract to be enforceable in law, parties need to have intention to create that legal relations. And so we're able to speak to that topic under 3 subtopics. And so we mentioned social, we mentioned So we mentioned the social and domestic agreements. We mentioned social, commercial agreements and collective agreements. And we said that for commercial agreements, it is automatic. Intention to create legal relations under commercial agreement is automatic. And so parties under commercial agreements have intention. In fact, they don't need to say to themselves that I have intention to create legal relations. But when it comes to social and all right, please, I don't have time to be going back and muting people. Kindly mute your device. So if your devices are not mute, have not been muted by now, that means you are not together with us in class. So we mentioned social and domestic agreements, and we said in such cases, intentions are not automatic. So except it is at some point, parties need to say to themselves that, oh, if we are doing this as mother and daughter, there must be an intention. You both have to create an intention all by yourself to say, oh, this thing is backed up by the law. And so for collective agreements. So this actually, I'm trying to be careful with my words. Please mute yourself. Okay. So then we mentioned collective agreement, and most of we said this mostly happen in collective bargains in employment and all of that. Okay. So we went ahead to say initially there was no intention behind any collective agreement when it comes to labor and trade and all of that. But then subsequently, that was in the case of common law. But then we have different statutes now that are now given intention to all of these agreements, that even if trade organizations come together to make laws, to make rules that to agree on certain things with employers, those things will be deemed as having the force of law with them. So then we also talked about contractual terms, and we said these are the things that made up of your contract, that those are the things that made you most of the time, those are the things that encourage you to enter into some contract, and not just enter, not just for that. A few of the times, a few of these things can be expressed and it can be implied. We said expressed are those that you both had discussed, or you discussed it orally or in writing. And we said the implied ones, that those that, oh, may not even have mentioned it, but according to the trade, to the custom of such businesses, according to the statutes that back that business or profession, or those things are presumed under those statutes. And we also mentioned that this can also be, implied contract can also be applied by the court of law. And so we talked about conditions and warranty. We said that conditions are very important and that the breach of conditions leads to repudiation, which means that the contract will be deemed as if it wasn't even in existence. And so money has to be, if money has transferred, and money would have to be returned, party would have to be returned back to their initial stage before that contract. And we said warranties that they're not as important as conditions, and that the breach of warranty, what it entails, or what the effect of that is that it leads to damages, that the person who had suffered that loss will be given some damages, all right? And I think we also mentioned that it's even at they also have the right to repudiate the contract, all right? Or that they don't have the right to repudiate the contract, pardon me. Also, we also mentioned exemption clauses, where most of the time we get to a car park, they say cars are parked at owner's risks. We said, oh, these things are acceptable under the law, except when the both parties hadn't agreed to it before they enter into the contract. And under that, we mentioned the case of you going to maybe a hotel facility, and at the reception, there was no indication that your things, that you can lose any of your things if you do not take care of them, which should be taken care of by the hotel. There are times you only see those things when you enter the hotel. And we said those are wrong because they haven't been agreed to by the parties. We also say that there are times that some people write some exclusion clauses in the receipt. And most of the time, parties had completed transaction. They have entered into some agreement before the receipts are issued. So at that time, we also mentioned that that is wrong, that the receipt at that time would not suffice for the acceptable exclusion clause by the law. So today, I want us to go straight to capacity. And so without seeing this, what is capacity? Okay, this is what I will do today in order to, let's see if we can give life to this today. Okay. Can we? Yeah, okay. All right then. Ojo Titilope says that it's the ability to do something. Giwa says ability. So I think I love that word ability. Being capable of entering into a contract, yes. Having the ability to enter into a contract, that's very good. So to start with, under the law, it is a general thing. It is generally accepted. It's a general rule that everybody has the capacity, everybody has the ability to enter into a contract. So, and this is what I want you to notice in the law of contracts. What really makes it very interesting is that the law of contracts have general principle and also have some exceptions. So at times, what I've noticed with with students that are not in our faculty is that immediately you are talking to them about the general rule, they are already making foreseeable thoughts. They want to ask you questions and all of that. So at this time, by now, I want you to have gotten the gist that whenever I speak on general rule, there's always exception. And remember, before we spoke about the penal case, if you remember, after the penal scale, they come promissory estoppel. So most of the times when there is a general rule, there's always an exception. And so that's why that's also the place of common law and equity. in a position where where common law has its position, there's also room for equity to correct some wrongs, because common law can be very, very strict. So, like I said here, that the general rule is that everybody has the full capacity to enter into contract. But however, there are some people that the law seems to protect, that the law tries to protect. Because if they are not protected, they are deprived of their rights. And the reason why the law tried to protect this set of people is because their intentions are not captivated in the terms of contract. I'll repeat myself. Their real intention, or the real intention which an ordinary man on the streets, an objective man on the streets would want to bring into the terms of contract will be absent. I'll repeat myself. I said the reason why the courts or the law tries to protect this set of people is because their intentions are not captivated, or would I say, or I would say that what an objective man would want to be part, would want as part of terms of contract, will be absent. And so, like it's here, this set of people are, number one, infants. What do I mean by infants, please? What do I mean by infants? What do I mean by infants? Danny, Uche, you should never repeat this again, please. Do not interrupt our flow in the chat box. Okay? Okay, you said 16. Oh, some people said people under the age of 18. Beautiful. So, wow, beautiful. Anyway, I'm going to correct that notion very soon. Let's put them, let's say they are children. Okay, so Oluwasukanmi is correct, and if Nathan too is correct. They are people. They call them children. We say those that are under the age of 21 are children. So on the light side now, if you are under the age of 21 in this class, you are a child. Yes. So Abdul Malik, you are a child. Sorry, under the constitution in Nigeria. I want to believe that a few of you have seen 21 here. That's why you are writing 21. Okay. So let's keep going. So those people that the law tries to protect, number one, infants, insane persons, drunken persons, illiterate persons, and corporations. Okay. So let's take the infants first. And we mentioned that all those that are under the age of 21, they are infants under the common law. In Nigeria, as of today, those under the age of 21 are infants, they are children. And so the law tries to protect them. So who can tell me the reason why the law tries to protect this category of persons? So you said because they are incapable of, yeah. So this is the reason why. It's because of experience. It is experience. You know, there are times, yes. I want you to base this categorically on experience. On experience. Yes, they cannot make informed decisions all by themselves. They don't have intention. Their intentions are not captivated or captured now in the terms of contract. But also, they are not, when it comes to the place of infants, children, the law system has not been experienced. I know in a normal day usage, we normally say that the experience is a good teacher. So if a person under the age of 21 wants to buy a property now, you cannot buy a property solely. You will need to have any of your parents or your guardian be part of the transaction, and they will co-sign with you because the law sees them as experience. What a young man would say, oh, I don't mind, I want to enter into this contract, I will sign this contract. What you see, like a proverb would say, what an old man sees sitting down, a young man would not see it even if he stand up and sees the whole thing. So that is the place of experience. Okay? So, someone says, so whatever agreement a minor goes into, regardless of how express it is, the contract is void. Not all contracts, and that's why you are here. It's not all contracts. Like I said, I would love that you wait before you ask questions. I had mentioned this that in the law of contracts, there are always exceptions. And so calm your nerves, calm down to listen so that you can gain and as well ask questions that will actually be good, okay? So yeah, we said, if as the law is trying to protect them, there are some contracts which are binding on infants, okay? Although not there, we have some that are binding, we have some that are voidable, and we have some that are void. At this stage, I hope you know what void is, you know what valid is, and you know what voidable is, because you have been taught. All right, because we'll do that a lot as well going on now, okay? So contracts that are binding on infant, they are called contracts of necessaries. They are called contracts of necessaries. Okay. And so that's where we are going to we are going to do a brief work on now. So what are contract of necessaries? Necessaries generally means essential things that are very necessary to the life of that infant. And these things are like food, drink, and shelter. So I hope the person that asked that question would agree with me that even as a child, you at times need to buy pure water to drink. You at times need to eat. Does it then mean that you need your parents before you can buy pure water on the streets? No. Those things are essential things. They are needed for your own daily living. They are beneficial things for you. And so the law sees those things as exception to the general rule. And under the law, we call those things necessaries. We call them necessaries. Those things are very necessary. So what it means is that those things that are appropriate to the infant's financial and social status. So I also want to ask a question. Can an infant buy a Rolex? A Rolex is a wristwatch, right? Can an infant buy a Rolex? Some people are saying no, but do you remember that Rolex is a wristwatch and it is beneficial? For those that are saying yes, why are you saying yes? Olawale says because it is expensive. Those that are saying yes, why are we saying yes? Because, yes, if they have the money, ma. Oh, yes. So I wouldn't want you to just leave it at if they have the money. There are times that you have some money that is stolen. Okay? But what the law would look at is that the law will look at the fact that you have the money. You know, there are some of us, we have different classes of people, of students. We have students that come from a humble home, and we have some that comes from homes that are well-to-do. So I could remember when I was in school then, I had a friend who a parent gives monthly allowance. And I think at times they do give her monthly allowance of, I'm not going to really say, but then monthly allowance that will suffice, that would help her for the month. But for me, my parents don't give me monthly allowance. So at times I have to keep pleading and begging, you know, you have to keep calling them. And at times when you call them, they send 1,000 naira to you. And that 1,000 naira then is like, they send me billions. So I cannot put myself in the place of my friend that gets monthly salary and she can really organize herself within that money. But for me, I can stay a week without getting 1,000 naira. So I will not bring it down to today's world as it is now. We have some students amongst you that their parents even give them car from home. For those people, their monthly allowance can be more than 50,000 naira. In fact, we could even have some that their uncles can give them 1,000,000 naira, can give them more than that. So that is what it means when we say something that is appropriate to the infant's financial status. Okay? But then we mean, remember there is appropriate there. It has to be appropriate. Whoever that wants to sell to such infant, if I were them, a shop that wants to sell to an underage, a Rolex, should ask him, where do you get? In fact, if they won't say they want to know, because it may be insulting, they may want to, you know, of course, do a kind of background check on this person, so that by the time they sell it, it won't bounce back on them. Because as we are going in our class, you see that there are times that such contract can be voided by the courts. And someone said, of course, if they are parents, we can, not even their parents. This is a different thing if it's a gift. There are some of them, they can go to the shops where they sell these things and buy all by themselves. We are not talking about the gift. We are talking about what they can purchase all by themselves. All right. So we are saying that it must be something appropriate to the infant's financial status. Please always ask questions when you need me to explain some things to you. In as much as we don't want you to take us back, listen carefully. Okay? So the next one is beneficial contract of service. Who can give me, with what you have seen here, my slides are here. Give me an example of beneficial contract of service that you yourself, you are involved in presently. Yeah, education. Thank you, Precious. You all are in school now. Some is apprenticeship. So most of the times you think, but these things are expensive. If you can remember, before you were given admission, there's a form that was given to you that is a form of a contract between you and the school. And so under it, they may say, they will write some terms there. The students will get their lectures, although those may be implied terms, but then express terms that the school are supposed to do for you, but then also what you're expected to adhere to as student. You should not join some groups. You should be diligent. You should attend lectures. You should not commit nuisance and all of that. And so you will sign, and of course, the school representative will also sign those terms of contracts, those terms of contract. And so that's beneficial contract of service. And what it means in essence is that this thing will be beneficial for you in the nearest future. So you are entering into this contract because it's going to support you in the future. So these things are very essential for you, although they are not necessaries. They are not food, it's not drink, and it's not clothing, it's not shelter. But it is very important for you. Excuse me, please. Okay, so can you hear me, please? I want to be sure you can hear me. Okay, so thank you. So I hope you also understand what it means to say something is beneficial contract of service. Okay, so the next is to treat the voidable contracts. So what are voidable contracts? So voidable contracts, like you've heard, they are contracts that are prone, they are in the first place, from the beginning, they are good contracts. They are pure, they are valid. But it is subject to the infant's reputation or validity or approval now. They are, in the first place, seen as being valid, and they are binding on the infant. But the infant can decide to say, I am not doing it again. All right? During his infancy, or even within the age, within that 20, when he gets close the age of 21, he can decide to say, I am not doing it again. Although it has its limits. I mean, when it comes to the age, that will be determined by the court. At the age of 21, he can still repudiate. But then it depends on the court. If the court will allow him to even repudiate at 22. So what I'm saying in essence is that the ball in this kind of contract is in the court of the infant. The infant can decide to repudiate a valid contract. An example of this contract, a contract in which this person acquire interest in property. And so I will make, for example, lease, partnership, or in places of shares in a company. If an infant, which we may have a few of you in this class, what it means is that if you had bought a shares, you can decide to repudiate. Although for that, if you had made the payments And if they have reached, because of the nature.
That girl that is Rory picking, that big girl. That person our daughter.
Okay. So for the
Like
person
a house help.
in our class,
And even
so remember, I am not saying transfer totally. In the place of rents, okay? Rent is different from lease. I'm trying to be careful because remember we said shelter is also a necessary because I know where Oliver is trying to go to in case I rent an apartment. Okay, no, I think you are talking about transfer of property. So in the place of transfer of property, just calm down. We are going to get there. Okay? Oh, my goodness. Okay, so in the place for voidable contract, you can decide. Anyway, this transfer of property can also be under voidable contract. You can decide as an infant to buy a property, but if you buy a property without without the other person ensuring that your guardian or your parent, they are co-signatory to it, it will be very unfair on the other party because you can decide to repudiate it at your any time at the time you wish to. Okay, so that is for voidable contract. Voidable contract means these are contracts, for example, in the place of lease, partnership, shares, that an infant who has entered into a very valid contract can decide to repudiate that contract at any time before they attain the age of 21 or within a reasonable time that they have attained that age. So the next one is void contracts, contract that you should not even dare to enter into with okay, so Oluwadamilare, I want you to read this voidable contract. Read that section by yourself again. And let's see if you can comprehend it. Because I've tried to explain twice now. Only if you guys want me to extend my class till evening today. Okay, so I would just go a little bit back because I've been the one asking you to do that if you need me to explain. So I said for voidable contracts, they are contracts that in the face of it, they are, okay, the example of this contract are lease. You enter into a partnership with another person. For example, maybe an elderly person. Another one is when you buy shares from companies. I hope you understand what I mean by shares. Now, if that is done, the law says, oh, this contract, they are valid. But then you can decide to say, I am not doing again. Give me my money at any time. I hope you understand what I'm saying. You can decide to say, I'm not doing again. And so that is the place where this voidable comes in. There is opportunity to void, to say, I'm not doing again. I want to repudiate. So I said the ball is in the court of the minor, the child. Okay? And so the child can, at that age of minor or within a reasonable time after he has attained the age of 21, decide to repudiate it. Now, that term, reasonable time, would then be decided by the court because if there is no definite year stated in the statutes, then it will be the court that will determine what is reasonable in this case. So let me quickly go to void contract. And I said, void contract in a case that has to do with minors, children under the age of 21, void contracts as if an adult is expected not to even venture into such contract with them. And the examples of this contract is lending money to an infant. If you lend money to an infant under the law, it is void from the beginning. And remember what it means to be void is that you cannot place something on nothing. It means you should not go near that place. Do not lend money to an infant. Do not enter into contract or buying and selling with them. That, oh, you want to, as you know, there are even sometimes you may have some guys around you and you say, I want you to cut this grass for me. When you cut the grass for me, I'm going to pay you 20 naira. Or they enter into a contract with you. They say, oh, a lot of you now, in as much as we are going to treat the exceptions, okay? There are some of you here that stays in apartments that are very big, that you can employ older people to come and do some things for you. You can do some things with them. And what the law is saying is that they should not enter into contract with you because it is wrong. The law sees those things as that they might be, elderly people can take advantage of them when it comes to businesses. Do you agree with the law here? That's advantage of minors if with them and if they render an company employee somebody and give them an IO. So are we all, I hope my internet is working fine. Please excuse me.
Progress.
Okay.
Okay.
What is happening?
What is happening?
Can someone help me? Why?
Can someone help me?
Hello? You said my network is still breaking. Is it better now? Oh my goodness. Is my network better now?
Yes, it's better now. Yes, my taste.
I don't want you to talk, my dear sister. Please don't use just use the chat box. Okay, so I think I'm not echoing again. I think I'm better now. Okay, so let's quickly move because I think we've been on this slide for a long time. So, and I asked a question. I said, do you agree with the law that minors can be taken advantage of if they enter into any of these contracts? I want your responses, please, from the chat box. If you don't agree, we want to hear from you. And remember, one of the things that should come to your mind as one who is in the management department, you are in management, that faculty, is that when it comes to contract with minors, they are not experienced. They are still young in age, although we might have one or two who came from an humble background that their parents had exposed them to businesses. But then that is on a real situation. So the court is trying to, or the law is trying to protect the general parts of, I think we're on the same page. So let's quickly move to restitution by an infant. So what the law is saying under this place is that an infant remember when I mentioned, so Chuk says, in a situation where I go into a contract when I was a minor, can I repudiate that same contract when I'm older? Remember, okay, so, what is that? We don't have enough time. I wish this is a very good topic that, remember what I said here. And that's why I'm saying I need your attention, your full attention, okay? If you had really been listening to us, see what I mentioned, and I would bolden it again now. I said, reasonable, if you can repudiate it when you are under 21, there is no, there's nothing against that. But, and again, you can also repudiate it after you have attained the age of 21 at a reasonable time. Not that you are now got to the age of 30 or 40, you want to repudiate. I don't think the law will agree to that. And I mentioned that even this reasonable time would have to be decided by the court. And I think a fair court will not say when you get to the age of 40, you can repudiate. Okay? Somebody said, according to Nigerian law, 21 is no longer a minor. Can we see? Can you give us the situation? You may have drafted a statute that I'm not aware of. So who is this? Onofeme Ogene. You said, isn't 21 too old to be a minor? Are you, remember? And that's why you are studying this thing, this course. We are working with the law. It is okay, you are right to say 21 years should not be seen as a minor. Yeah. But then if the law says this, there's nothing I as a lecturer can do. There's nothing anybody can do about that. Of course, with the advent of the internet now, we should not be seeing the 21 at that age. Now, so, okay, banks do open a tier 3 account for people under 21. Okay, so you can approach. I think maybe we should just give a few people some. Who is this lady that asks? I think I should give her an assignment. What's your name? Can we see you? Remember, I'm not picking on you. So, or not for me, Omogene. Are you a lady or a young man? I want you to also help us make inquiries before any bank on if they can allow people under the age of 21. What are the criteria? So the places where an 18 years is allowed is in the place of elections. Elections. You can be allowed to vote under the age of 20 if you're above 18 and below 21, okay? I think I'm getting a lot of, but then I don't want you to please under the law, when it comes to, and if it comes to contracts. Now, I want you to go back and read this Child's Rights Act. This is a long 2003. Esther Owori, please, you guys need to go and do this homework. Thank God I have advocates here, and I'm going to write your name down. You need to go and check what the law really says under the Child's Rights Act 2003. Can they be allowed to enter into contracts? Okay. Child's Rights Act 2023. And your names are down because you need to help us with this research. Okay? So that I don't take too much time with you people. You don't take my time. Let me go ahead. So I mentioned the fact that if a child can decide to restitute, in the case of this void contract, remember we said that you should not lend them money. You should not sell goods to them. Don't enter into business with them. The other exception, or would I say the way that the law has helped, is that those children can restitute. So, for example, there are times that some children come to give you an older person's age when you want to enter into contract with them. The court still expects you to do an on-the-ground investigation regarding such people. But even if you don't, the law says they can restitute, they can decide. The law can make them give what they had taken back to you. So let's say, for example, you borrow them money and they use that money to buy necessaries. Now, you can collect that money for necessaries from them. So the law will now make you the person who sold that necessary to them. So they can pay you back the money for that necessary that they bought. But if they didn't buy necessaries, maybe they bought things that are not necessaries, you cannot get that money back from them. Okay? And also when it comes to IOU, they borrow money from you, you can always get the money back if they had used that money for necessaries. And I think even if that money, the exact money that you gave to them, maybe you gave them cash, if they can still identify the cash, that this is my money, this is the exact money I gave to them, they can still give it back to you under restitution. Okay, so let's quickly go to insane person. The insane persons. Okay, so under insane persons, this is the general rule, is that contracts made with a mentally disordered persons, they are valid. So if you enter into a contract with an insane person, that insane person is bound under contract to respect, honor, and go along with the terms of that contract, except that he can prove that you as a person, you enter into that contract with them, knowing that they are not in good, they are not sane at that time, that they could not make good decision at that time, you went ahead with the contract with them. Now, most of these contracts that is allowed by the law, they are also contracts on necessaries, things that are very important for their livelihood. Okay, and so you see on the street that a mentally a person who is not mentally stable can always walk into any shop and buy food. They can buy water. They are even allowed to be given to get a place where they can rest their head. Do you agree with me? Or not with me now, with the law, that we should the law should respect whatever contract that an insane person, especially necessaries, contracts for necessaries that an insane person enters into? Or what do you think? I'm expecting your responses. And I also said that it should be, if he can prove that his condition was known to the other person, and that it wasn't even in a very good state at that time, he's not allowed to enter, especially contracts that are very, very stringent, like partnership and every other thing. Yes, that's it. So thank you, everyone. Now, where these two conditions have been proved, the contract becomes voidable and can be set aside in options of the insane person. However, this is where the exception comes in. Contract that is entered into by a mentally disordered person during his lucid intervals are valid and binding as they will be on the ordinary person. So to now determine if he is lucid at the time he entered into that contract would then be can be proven by an expert witness, maybe a psychologist and all that will be able to test him and come and give reports on how much this person can be lucid, how much it can be okay. So if they come, if a mentally disturbed person says, I entered into a contract with this person when I was not okay, the courts would then, the other man who entered into contract with them should be able to prove that this person was in a right mind when he came to me. And so it will then be in this court of a psychologist to determine that. Okay, the next part here, we said, even while suffering from the disorder, such a person is also liable for necessary goods and services suitable to his position in life. So in this case, his obligation is to pay a reasonable price. So a reasonable price, remember, I think if someone wrote here that you know of somebody that's used to buy. What I noticed about a few of these people is that even if they want to buy, some of these vendors, if they give some of these vendors, some of them can just give them 200 naira and they will give them food. They will give them rice, meat. Some will even give them water. Okay? So that's that's us talking about reasonability. So they can just, a few of these sellers just see their willingness, they see they are hungry and they want to pay, but they may not even have enough that will be able to feed them. All right. So what they do is most of the time they give them even more than they pay for. Do you agree with us, with the law? Or would you agree with my example? Okay, so we also mentioned that the position for insane person is also what is it for those that are drunk. So the rule governing drunkards' contractual liability are similar to those of the insane. So where a person enters into a contract in a state of drunkenness, the contract is voidable at the option of the drunkard. However, yeah. So I want us to shift to drunken persons now. So the position of the law is that drunkards' contractual liability are similar to those of the insane person. So when a drunkard wants to buy something from you, I would appreciate that you don't enter into contract with them. But you know why? Sometimes some people enter into contract with people that are drunk because they know they can make use of that avenue to get more from them. And the law protects them. That if someone is drunk, it's better you don't enter into contract with them because you can take advantage of them. Does anybody has anything in mind? Something used to bite me so much when I get to this place. What are you thinking presently? Yeah, they can exploit them. So what else can you think of? I'm reading your chat, so I want you to please respond. He said, how can one prove drunkenness? Sorry about that. At times you can prove it by corroboration. When there's another person there who can corroborate that, yes, you were drunk, I saw him drunk, he was acting somehow, he has drank 2-3 bottles. Of course, they will now test him to know if 1 or 2 bottles can make him drunk. An expert can test that. So, yeah, some people can cheat them when they are drunk. But for me, I used to think, so why do they get drunk in the first place? But then we have to be nice. We are human, we should be nice to people. All right, so someone said, just smell his mouth. No, I would advise you when you see anybody taking alcohol, even if it's just a little sip, do not enter into contract with them. Because there are some people just sip. I could remember when I took, you know, the first time my parent gave me palm wine, I was just saying naughty things. They just gave me little, you know. So be careful who you enter into contract with. So, Oluwatoyin says, I partially agree. What do you mean by that? With what? So that's the news. You said not everyone loses mental consciousness. You know, and I will repeat this. I wish that you have a note where you jot things to, like a diary. There are a few of my nuggets that I've been saying, which I'd like you to write down as a student in the Faculty of Management. Because you do a lot with contracts, you cannot afford to be wasting your money in the courts. You are meant to be a master of your trade. You cannot say everybody, no, it's not everyone that get drunk when they drink. Some people, no, it's not. You don't want to even think of that. You are expected to you have to perform diligently, carefully. It is people look onto you. Your employers look onto you. So you cannot say he has just drunk a little. You cannot say, but it's not everybody. No. Do not enter into contract with them. Tell your employers, I do not advise you enter into contract with this person because this person is drunk. Kehinde didn't raise up his hand. Please, Kehinde, if you can write something in the chat box. I need to move forward. You guys are taking my time here. Precious says, what of those that takes, that's for them. That's for them. But you, as a good businessman, I would advise you because you may not be able to determine when someone is drunk. Of course, people mostly do business, they go to beer park, that's where people do business. But under the law, if that person comes back and says, I was drunk, there's nothing you can do, especially if it can be corroborated by another person. Okay. So Kehinde says, if you are the one selling the alcohol, if the court will seize it, and let's start from the fact that an alcohol is not necessary. So before you give it to them, I think it's advisable to collect your money from them. Isn't that the position that a good businessman would have written that before you buy? Anyway, I don't think it's before they buy. But if that person doesn't pay you, sorry, because it's not part of necessary. Alcohol is not necessary. Okay, so let's quickly go next to corporations. What do I mean by corporations? What do I mean by corporations? And I've even written it there, so I don't even need to ask again because you will read it. So corporations are companies. You know, under the law, companies are seen as legal persons. They are expected, they have legal capacity. And they have legal capacity and independent of the persons who are even their members. So the law actually doesn't say, oh, they cannot enter into contracts. But then the law is just a bit careful with them. And so if they must enter into contracts with you and all of, ensure that you have seen all of their papers, they are well registered, you are entering into a contract, which is the objective of that company. You have to be careful in entering into a contract with the company. If you must enter into the contract with them, ask for their memorandum of association and an article of association. You should read those together so you can make informed decision. Yes, thank you. Oliver says they are saying an artificial persons. So let's quickly go through literate persons. So what is your view about illiterate person? before you can just drop any nuggets, whatever. So you can drop anything in the chat box. So for illiterate persons, I wish I had not come here, but a few of you would have taken a screenshot immediately. You guys are very smart. So who is an illiterate under the law? So Precious said anyone who is ignorant. Any other definition? Someone who is unable to read and write? Any other person? We have like 1,005 of you in the class. Let me even check our, how many people do we have here? Today is a different day. We have 208 people there. Oh, no. I only have 208 subscribers. Let's see those that are attending. We have 64 watching. That's not nice. Oh, okay. Let me go back to Zoom. Okay, let me hear what those on YouTube are saying. Okay, for YouTube, let's see your chat here. Yeah, these ones don't have them. They're just writing their matric numbers. And I thought we had agreed that you should stop doing that. Okay, so going back to my people, an illiterate person is who is unable to read and understand the language of, thank you, Hebel. After you have gone to read my notes or you have gone online, I can't read an agreement, but choose to go ahead and sign. An illiterate is someone who can't read and write and is ignorant about the law. Okay, let me quickly just go and reveal it to you as it is. So, you know what? There have been contention because when you look at the dictionary, a dictionary will say a person who cannot read or write is an illiterate person. So under the law would not say an illiterate person is a person who cannot read or write. The law says an illiterate person is a person who cannot read or write in the language of the contract. A person who cannot read or write in the language of the contract. So I'll give you an example. You went to, you went to my 12. I think my 12 years, and you went to meet this malam. You want to buy pepper and all of that. A few of them would hear your language, especially those that carry things for you, that lift things. If you want to enter into contracts with them, which is the best language to use with them? With all these guys that help you to carry items after buying your things, with all these malam guys, which is the best language to enter into a contract with them? Not every one of them understands pidgin, no. Not every one of them understands pidgin. If I go to the market, most of the times, I know they can understand money. They can understand 10 naira, 20 naira. But I put it there, come with me, they may not even understand. You have to use your hand to make descriptions. So the best way to even negotiate with them is in their language. And that is the real contract that you have entered into. So if you are entering into a contract with an Hausa person, even as a person who can read and write in English, a professor of law that goes to Ojota market and wants to carry her items to her vehicle and cannot hear or even speak Hausa language. I only met this boy who can only speak Hausa language. They cannot enter into a contract. Or she wants to buy market from a lot of them and they all are speaking their terms there. The language they use there is Hausa. In that area, in that term, under that condition, the professor of law will be seen as an illiterate. Do you understand and do you agree with me? So under the law, that is the meaning of illiterate. The law still sees my mom, who may not be very good at writing English. She may be an illiterate in English language. I mean, writing and all of that. But when it comes to our language, when you want to enter into a contract with her in our language, then she's not an illiterate. It is the person who cannot speak that language that will be an illiterate. So I hope we have settled that. So now trying to go to our note here, I said, an illiterate person is a person who is unable to read and understand the language of documents made or prepared on his behalf. If a document is prepared for an illiterate person and he cannot read or write, to a person who cannot read or write in that language, then that person is an illiterate. So, I used to make this example that let's assume you got a scholarship to Germany and you cannot speak their language and you want to rent an apartment there. The man draft the terms of the lease or the rent. And because you are in a dire need of that house, you sign it. The law sees you as what? Even if you can read and write in English, you are the best in English, then you'll be seen as an illiterate. All right? All right, so what are the requirements? Now, I want you to also understand that when we are talking about illiterate persons, we are only talking about it in written documents. Okay, so I'm back. So like I was saying, it only applies in written documents. Okay. So Okpara says, this exception for illiterate is an accepted general rule. I don't understand what you're saying. I wish if you can just, I wish you guys can speak. I wish I can say you should mute, but then it takes time and I will not be able to get all these things done. Well, contract law, we teach our students contract law for 2 semesters, law of contract for 2 semesters. What I'm taking you for like just a few weeks, which you are taking. So I want to be very fast in doing it. And I also want to make sure that you understand what I'm doing so that I won't just be saying things and we don't understand. So I said it happens in written documents. So what then is the requirement of the law when it comes to written documents? Number one, I says we should write the name and the address of the person who prepared that document. Right? You should write his name and the address of the writer of the on the letter or the documents. Myself, sorry. This means to say that that the person who wrote it was instructed to write it. Remember, if an illiterate wants to write, when you get to a place where you don't understand the language, of course, you cannot write the document. It should be another person that would have written the document. So what the law is saying is that the person who had written the document should write his name and his address. The letter of document should be fully and correctly represented by the instruction of the illiterate person. So before that person should be made to sign, the content of that document should be read to the person who is to the illiterate person. And when you read and interpret to them, they should agree that this is actually the instructions. So the next one says they should ensure that the letter or document fully and correctly represents the instruction. All right. And so the illiterate persons should sign it after it has been read over and it has been interpreted to the illiterate. Okay, so under illiterate persons, the law is also trying to protect them from being taken advantage of. I know you understand by now that if you don't understand a language, people could take advantage of you. So the law is trying to say anything that has to do with written documents, try your best to ensure that it is read to you if you are not literate in that language. So what are then the consequences of non-compliance? So the requirements of the law must be strictly complied with, but in the place of non-compliance, if the document creates legal rights in favor of the writer, okay, it cannot be, the writer cannot enforce the rights. Okay? And I want you to see this place, don't get confused. You know, there are times that the person who wrote it is the German landlord. I'm giving an example, going ahead with my example before. The German landlord wrote the contracts. What the law is saying here is that if he did not comply with all that I've mentioned here, he didn't write it, they did not read it over for you to, before you have fixed your signature, the law, this writer, the German man cannot enforce it in the court of law. Let's assume then when it comes to you making payments, if you make half payments, the writer cannot go to court and say, my lord, this person did not pay my money in full. The question would be, these terms that you had written for him, did he agree to the terms? And if you say, oh, it wasn't written to him, then the court will say, there's nothing they can do about it. They cannot make him make the final payment. Another consequence of non-compliance is that if the document creates legal rights between the illiterate and a third party, it is enforceable by the third party if it can establish that the document contains the true intent of the illiterate person. What the court has also noticed over the years is that some illiterate persons today will now hide under the facts that it wasn't read to them. So the court is now saying that, if there's a third party in this contract, it's not just between the German man and the illiterate man. Maybe there's another third party that's meant to benefit from that contract. Look at the terms of contract and see that it's so that the illiterate person doesn't run away, wasn't read to them, or because it wasn't written down. They want to hide under that place. You know, we always have dubious people around. So the court will then try its best to try to see the intent of the illiterate party. If the intent of the illiterate party is captured, then the court will go ahead and enforce that thing. Am I communicating? Am I communicating? Okay, thank you. The next point says that okay, before we get there, let's see if we can conclude. The next point says that the literate person can enforce the document if he can call evidence to prove what happened at the time the document was prepared by the writer. And I say, for example, where both parties to a contract are illiterate, where both parties are illiterate, the two of them would have to prove by evidence what happened during their contract. You know, if by evidence they can both say, oh, this was what happened, this was what happened, then the court will be able to infer from me that although they are both illiterate, but these are their intent. These are the reasons why they enter into this contract. Okay, The next point is the next consequence of non-compliance is that it is enforceable against the illiterate person if he has received benefit from the contract. Like I said some of these illiterate persons are dubious. So some of them may have enjoyed somebody that rented an apartment. You've been living in that apartment for 12 months. It's not time for you to pay to renew your rent or something. We're now telling the court that they didn't read it over to you, so you cannot make payments. What do you think as a person? Do you think the law should protect that person? Or it may not even be that for them to renew their rent. You know, it may be that you bought something, you enter into a contract with them, they started using that thing. They're meant to make installment payment. They have used and enjoyed that thing. So when it now comes to the place of payment, they now remember that you did not read it over to them. They will now, especially if it is the illiterate person that sued the other man, the court will be careful before they can give judgment for the illiterate person. Okay. Yeah, so Precious says the person should know that occupancy takes when you occupy a place, you make a payment. Okay, so let's go to the E part, and it says a penalty of 100 naira fine or 6 months imprisonment may be imposed on a defaulting writer. So this is I want you to go back and go and research on this thing. Number one, don't you think this is too simple or fine, 100 naira fine? Or has it been, what is the position of the law presently regarding this payment of fine and imprisonment, where a person defaults to adhere to the position of the law, and he went ahead and drafts a term of a contract agreement and did not read it over to the illiterate person? What is the punishment under the law? I will expect to hear that from you. And I want to ask a question from you now. You can unmute yourself. But then when you unmute yourself, let me stop sharing. I'm not saying that, no, not everybody. I'll ask you a question before I'll be hearing what is not supposed to be heard. That is something. Please do unmute yourself, please. Unmute yourself. So I have a class tomorrow by 4 to 6. Can you join me in that class? Raise up your hand before you. I said unmute yourself. Mute yourself rather. Mute yourself. Can you imagine? You hear what we're saying? Some people are in the marketplace.
We get there, receive and calling. Because it's not calling that join all of us together. So they not give us time. So give you
classmates. We need to work with them. It's this person.
Headed, put yourself now.
Jesus. Sorry, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So let's know what I would like to hear from your class reps first. I think we have 6 of them. Let's hear from your class reps. Only the class reps' hands should be up. And I'll give you an opportunity to speak. Then, you know, like what it means is that they are your representatives, okay? Sorry that you may not have to say, but you are giving them the power to represent you. So we don't have to be going back and forth on this. So I want to ask them a question. Will you be available to join me for my class tomorrow between 4 and 6 in the evening? I have a class with the ICE students so that we can trash this the more and then, because I would really have to excuse myself now. No, I want to see you. Okay, so Precious, are you a class rep? Let's hear from you.
Yes, ma'am, for actual science.
I can't hear you, Precious.
Huh? Hello, ma, can you hear me now?
I can't hear you clearly. Am I the only one?
Can you hear me clearly now?
Better now. Better now.
I will not be available tomorrow. We have a class slated for 4 to 6, ma'am.
Oh, the same 4 to 6.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. But you can always join us after that by 6. Anyway, I don't think that 6 is okay. Okay, that's for Precious. Any other Adewu who is this place? Adewumi Aderemi. Okay. Let's hear from Adewumi Aderemi.
Yes, ma'am. I would just my view is that okay, we are free actually to take some the class for you, but I don't know about other departments.
Okay, let's hear from Grace. So for Precious department, Precious is from what department, please?
Actual science, ma'am.
Actual science. Thank you. Let me just write that down. So for the other departments, we cannot see your class reps. So you are not going to be well represented. Okay, then please, can you have your hands, can your hands go down, please? Yeah, thank you. So let's hear from Okpara. So Okpara, can you join us tomorrow?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yeah, afternoon, please.
Yes, ma'am. For accounting department, we are free by 4 to 6, ma'am.
Yes, so I will enjoin you to join me. I will send the link to you. Then, thank you. So what's up, Olani?
Good afternoon.
You said what?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Olani. Yes, let's hear from
Okay,
you.
for taxation, will be available tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. So others. Okay, so if you have spoken, please. Okay, Ifeola, please go ahead.
All right. Hello. Good afternoon, ma'am. So for finance department, we are going to be available by that time also.
Okay, 4 to 6. Yes, someone else. Any other? I think you are to be 8, and we've heard from just 6 or 7. So for the other department, that means your class representatives are not here. They're not, well, who are these people? Please. Oluwanifemi. This is very rude. Who else, please? Okay, so I'll be taking high students at that time. And what I want to do for them is, for Precious, I wouldn't have to go and, for me, I don't like where I would deprive other people of my classes. It's not nice. We have to put everybody into consideration. So what I can do is that, even if you all join my class tomorrow, we'll make that, I'll make the YouTube, I'll make the YouTube link available. Of course, like I said, I am not seeing enough subscribers on my YouTube channel. So you can go there, subscribe, and you can always watch whatever happens tomorrow. So when I will take the class tomorrow and we'll see if we can extend to more than what we did today so that we can cover up. And another thing is that when we are starting our class next week, I will ensure that whatever that we have done tomorrow, okay, I'll just do like a recap. But then I would have shared our YouTube link with Precious class for them to go and listen to, so that they can be up to speed with us. Because I want us to finish this thing next week. Let's finish contract next week so that you can enjoy your holiday. So do have a wonderful evening, or are we still in the afternoon? Wonderful afternoon for the rest of your day. Bye.
No, ma'am.